What's going on, the latest developments in those ceasefire and hostage negotiations with Roubi Chen. Chen's son, Itai Chen, was an IDF soldier who was killed on October 7th. Roubi Chen has been advocating ever since to bring home all the hostages, alive and dead, including his son's remains. Roubi Chen is joining us right now. Roubi, what's your thoughts right now? This Israeli attack on this mosque and this school and the resulting casualties, how's that going to impact the opportunity potentially to bring home all the remaining Israeli hostages?
Yeah, so at least what I think, Wolf, is that there's a time, especially now, that we are kind of like at that 2-minute warning before getting in. We need to think what is strategic and not strategic to help us get that hostage deal. And I would question and ask, is this attack helpful to get us to that finish line or not? We, of course, are very feel unfortunate that these things happen. We do not enjoy seeing these things happen. We do not like to see people, innocent people, killed. It's time, after 10 months, put this to rest.
So you want the negotiation to result in a ceasefire and to bring all the hostages home?
There are over 115 families that have been through excruciating pain and psychological warfare, and my son is one of them. He is one of the 8 U.S. hostages. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, Itai, we were notified, is most likely not coming back alive, but he is part of 45, Wolf, U.S. citizens that were killed by Hamas on October 7th. That matters.
And I know you and some of the other family members of the American hostages had a chance to speak yesterday with Jake Sullivan, President Biden's national security advisor. What was the upshot?
So we've been fortunate that Mr. Sullivan finds time to talk to us. We have an ongoing call with the White House once a week. Yesterday he did talk to us and give us kind of like the game plan that the U.S. has for next week. We understood Mr. Brett McGurk will be coming beforehand to the region and laying the groundwork. We told Mr. Sullivan that we wanted to congratulate him on the most recent deal of letting U.S. hostages out in a very complicated, with a number of countries involved, deal of getting U.S. hostages out. And we urge Mr. Sullivan to think that if these talks do not consume to a deal, then maybe that template that was built to release the U.S. hostages with Russia, where Mr. Biden made a very tough decision, but it was leadership. And he took that tough decision to get these U.S. hostages out. And we urge Mr. Sullivan to think again, if this week is not going to where we're planning to go, then these U.S. citizens have been in harm's way for over 10 months. It's time to get them out.
Certainly is time to bring all the hostages back home. If there is an escalation in the tensions and there's a war, a real war, that Iran attacks Israel, Hezbollah from Lebanon attacks, how is that going to impact the effort to try to bring the hostages home?
So I think that we, the majority of the people that live in Israel, are very grateful for what the United States has done the last 10 days with mobilizing these forces into the region. It has deterred, until now, Iran and Hezbollah from making an attack on Israel. So we are first very thankful for that for the United States. We see the efforts that the United States are putting on this. We also see a very interesting comment from Iran that came out the last 24 hours saying that they are not a side to a deal between Israel and Hamas. We've seen Arab countries come out. We've seen France and, of course, Qatar and Egypt urging for this deal to happen. So we are optimistic because we have no other choice, but we are positive that this is the time, this is the window of opportunity, because of the political window both in the United States and in Israel, to get this done. And we need everybody focused to get this deal done. And I would even urge the Prime Minister of Israel, that claims he is the best negotiator. He knows how to get a deal done. He knows how to stand for what is correct for the state of Israel. I would urge him, Mr. Netanyahu, please get on a plane this Thursday. We see the Prime Minister of Qatar involved directly in these talks. I would urge him, get on a plane. We will be very thankful to see you negotiate and bring our loved ones back home after 10 months of this agony.
So you want Netanyahu personally to go to either Cairo or Doha, Qatar, and negotiate on behalf of Israel?
He is the prime minister. He was responsible for what happened on October 7th, and he claims that he knows to do the best negotiation possible. Show up, do your thing, bring our loved ones back home. It's about time.
Ruby, I want you to stay with us. The Democratic presidential candidate, the Vice President of the United States, has just spoken out about the hostage situation and what's going on here in the Middle East. I want to run a little clip and listen to this.
To go after the terrorists that are Hamas. But as I have said many, many times, they also have, I believe, an important responsibility to avoid civilian casualties.
Madam Vice President, you've been saying that since October 7th, and that has been the administration's policy for many, many months now.
Yeah.
As tens of thousands of civilians have been killed, I mean, there are people who are asking for limitations on arms to Israel, any kind of change. What do you say to those folks who are looking for more than we should look out for civilians?
Well, look, first and foremost, and the President and I have been working on this around the clock, we need to get the hostages out. We need a hostage deal, and we need a ceasefire. And I can't stress that strongly enough. It needs to get done, the deal needs to get done, and it needs to get done now.
On economy, I know you're going to speak about that this coming week.
Yeah.
All right, Ruby, I don't know if you could really hear, the audio was not that clear, but what did you think of what you heard?
I think it's consistent with what the U.S. administration, the Biden administration, has been advocating for a while. The key to stability in the region and the de-escalation is the hostage deal. That will bring down tension both here with Israel in the north, in the south, with Iran. So this is the key. And this is where we see the U.S. putting a lot of effort, a lot of pressure on all the sides to get a deal. This is part of the strategic interest of the United States to bring de-escalation to the region. And reminding you again, there are 8 U.S. hostages that have been in harm's way for over 10 months. Yeah. So the U.S. has equity in this. It's not just being a facilitator.
And very quickly, you have a book that you brought. I just want to show our viewers, what is this book about?
Yeah, so it's a book that was done by a famous photographer here in Israel called Ziv Cohen. The U.S. families were at the White House and the Pentagon meeting the Secretary of Defense about 10 days ago. My mom taught me, you don't come empty-handed to people like that. So I thought, what would make sense to come and show? So this is a book that we documents what happened on October 7th. And I think as the Pentagon is somewhat of a museum, and I think it's very important to have this documented album in the White House as well as the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense was very grateful for this, seeing this book and taking time to look at it, as well as the President himself. We, the families, the U.S. families, of course, put something at the beginning, thanking them for the effort and urging them to get this done.
And our thoughts go out to Itai right now, and we're so sad that who informed you that Itai had died? It
was a combined effort by both U.S. intelligence as well as the Israeli intelligence, and we were grateful on that very difficult day that the President himself actually gave us a call, as well as the Vice President, Secretary of State, and we more or less told him the same thing. And I asked him, and I'm asking you as well, do you know what a Shiva is? Shiva is the Jewish tradition where the Israeli people mourn for their deceased loved ones.
Not just the Israeli people, the Jewish people.
The Jewish people, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I told him, we decided not to do a Shiva because in our book, he's not back. And I asked the President, when are we going to have a Shiva? As well as the Vice President, as well as Secretary of State. And that's what we're waiting for, because he is still a hostage. And he needs to come back, and we need to be united with him and be able to have our next sad chapter of our lives begin and not be kept in this limbo for over 10 months.
It's a horrible, horrible situation. Ruby, thank you so much. Good luck to you and your family. And let's hope all those hostages are coming home.
Amen.
And coming home soon. Appreciate
Amen.
it very much. Jessica, back to you.